Success in farming is all about precision and efficiency, ensuring every seed, every drop of water, every nutrient and treatment counts. Terraplex Ag is helping farmers all over Iowa and the Midwest do just that. With precision ag drone technology and support from Terraplex, you'll boost your productivity and make timely and informed decisions, all while reducing your costs and increasing your profit. It's time to revolutionize your farming. Harvest the benefits with Terraplex Ag. Visit TerraplexAg.com.
Chris Williams, Brent Blum, from the Wild Rose Casino Studio. It's Williams and Blum, presented by Mechdyne, on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network.
What's up? Welcome to Williams and Blum. I decided to surprise you. I didn't have the English clip ready as I'm producing today, and the only audio I had ready was yakety sax. So I'm like, how about should we just lead the show
with point spreads?
We had a woman on our Facebook page. It was something I posted our podcast last week, and
don't read the comments.
Oh, the comments are. I'm convinced that social media comments are just like the cesspool of the universe, honestly. But this woman was very upset that she hadn't heard yakety sax, and I was like, "Ma'am, you're simply not listening to the show. It's always there." So now I'm leading it off for you, Judy.
Merry Christmas.
Happy bye week. Happy bye weeks at 7-0 hit different. Just a different feel, just a different vibe. Felt really good. I won't lie, like.
I enjoyed that weekend. Yeah, a lot.
During the day, Saturday, I really didn't watch much football. And it was awesome. I don't know about you. I didn't really want to. Now, I felt like I needed to watch BYU, Central Florida. I felt like I needed to watch Texas Tech, TCU. And I watched that one very closely this afternoon so I could talk about Texas Tech intelligently for our audience. But it was like a good level of burnt out where it's just like, okay, just going to take today off. I'm going to do the Halloween for the kids. And then Sunday we'll get rolling and get back at it. What about you? What was your weekend like?
Oh, I mean, I was all over it. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm a loser.
No,
no,
you're not. But will you, during the week, you're not as nuts as I am about it though.
No,
because your job isn't like every day.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. Like Saturdays for me, it's like, okay, now I can just get away from, accounting software. Yeah. No, I was all over that Notre Dame game because again, who was right on that? Just FYI.
You were right. That by the way, that Picks Pod with Tim Mullen and Nebraska Furniture Mart is getting record numbers this year. It's always gotten good numbers, but like we're just killing it with that thing now.
I got a message from somebody who's like, "Blum, you nailed the Notre Dame game." I'm like, thank you. No, I went
you did.
3-3 though. I went 3-3. So
I ended up playing the over in that game, so I didn't play Navy. I hit the over on that.
You're sicko under for Utah.
Yeah.
Look at us.
No, that was great. Although I was terrified that game was going to go into overtime and we were going to get screwed in that thing last night.
And then my Colorado Cincinnati under just snuck in at the last second.
Yeah, good call on that.
It's close.
I had given up on that in like the second quarter.
It was fun. Honestly, the results did not go in Iowa State's favor, but at the end of the day, Iowa State's still undefeated, so whatever.
Well, yeah, and we'll do our Whiffles Hybrids Big 12 segment, but Kansas gives Kansas State a scare, which would have been
that would have really helped.
Mm-hmm.
That would have really, really helped. But is what it is.
It is what it is. We'll take being in this position.
Yeah, you know what? At the end of the day, C-Dub, I'm not going to the back door. I want the front door action. Like we're winning the whole thing.
Blum's a front nine player.
Yeah, I mean you just got to front door the thing because if you just don't need to, we could lose. No, let's just win out.
Well, and that's why like we've had that conversation. It's like, are you rooting for these teams to like win so the Big 12 can get multiple teams in? And I'm like, that's best case scenario. It'd be amazing, but I'm not gonna like just bank on it. Like I want to set Iowa State up as well as possible And BYU certainly looks the part.
They
They were really good in that game against Central Florida.
Yeah, let's get right into that. I mean, at some point they are going to get some respect from somebody. I mean, if I'm BYU,
Well, and they jumped Iowa State in the polls this week, and I thought they should. I had
think
somebody
they
on.
should have. I don't have a problem with that at all. I
No.
have zero problem with that.
The same team Iowa State played last week. They went on the road, handed it to them. I'm completely okay with how the pollsters
They
react.
now have one more win than Iowa State in both.
Yeah, and a good resume too, right? They beat Kansas State. They win at SMU, which that looks better every week. Did SMU beat Duke?
Barely.
They ended up beating Duke. No, I'm cool with
good.
BYU beating.
You know what, Chris? I made a pact to myself. I'm like, I'm not going to lose my stuff over the rankings this week because it's just going to make me mad. And there's nothing I can do. Well, now I got into a little bit with Sean Roberts, noted Notre Dame fan.
Oh yeah,
on the internet yesterday, but that was all in good fun. I mean,
what was his take? I missed that.
Essentially, long story short, Notre Dame destroys Navy, which good for them. And you've got people, and I think she's great. Nicole Auerbach, who's I think is a really good journalist. She's now working for NBC Sports. C-Dub, who owns the Notre Dame television rights?
Yeah, notorious NBC Notre Dame relationship there.
So she goes on post game. She's like, I really think Notre Dame has played themselves back into the playoff. And it's like, okay, you're saying that on NBC. Like, there's a reason why NBC would want Notre Dame to be relevant, and so that fired me up a little bit. But after that, I'm like, I'm not going to do it.
What was Roberts' take?
He's basically, well, they've won a couple really good games now. Shouldn't they be in the conversation? And I said, listen, until all the undefeated teams lose, then no, they shouldn't.
Not when you lose to that team at home.
And it's 1-3 now. They're 1-3 in the MAC, Northern Illinois. Like, if that's anybody else, not Notre Dame, you are disqualified from the top 20 for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how good your wins are. Like, you can't just go do that.
I mean, look at how Iowa State was treated after the Ohio game on the road last year.
Yeah,
and Ohio is better than Northern Illinois is.
A better example, C-Dub, was actually from our friend Nicole Auerbach 4 years ago during COVID when Iowa State lost to Louisiana. And for the longest time, people were like, oh, Iowa State cannot be up there. They lost to Louisiana. And it's just a double standard that drives me nuts. And so
keep calling it out, brother.
Well, I'm going to, it's not necessarily good it doesn't really do anything, I'm not sure, but I like to do it. So I think if I'm BYU, Indiana, or Iowa State, I'm still upset today. Like, what do we have to do here? What exactly do we have to do? And I don't understand it.
Back to the conversation we had a month ago about where you start in the poll.
Like Alabama,
Indiana is a great example. Like,
yeah,
Nebraska almost beat Ohio. Like, Nebraska doesn't suck. Like, everybody that was fun last week. Everybody made fun of them. This ain't the '90s. All that. They're not bad. I don't know how good they are. They're not bad. Indiana beat them by 50. Indiana's.
What does Indiana have to do? They're beating everybody by double figures. I don't understand. Like, I'm just baffled at.
It's because the dweebs like me who have votes in these polls don't watch all the games and they don't know that much about football. That's the reality.
But here's my problem, C-Dub, is someone like Joel Klatt, who I greatly respect. I think he does a fantastic job. He has Alabama at 9 today.
Does he really?
And it's like, dude, they have 2 losses. I just at some point.
Does he have a vote in the AP?
I think he does. Yeah.
Well, those are the people who should be voting,
right?
In my opinion, who watch college football for a living.
And I'm not saying Alabama's not talented. Of course they are, but I hate the argument. Well, they have more talent. Well,
the results have to matter.
Then don't lose the game. That's kind of my thing. It's like all these Notre Dame people coming at me. Like, if they would play on tomorrow, then Notre Dame be favored by a touchdown. Doesn't matter.
Games have to matter.
Don't lose the game. You get 12 of them. Don't lose one. And it's just I'm going to die.
Especially Notre Dame and that shit schedule that they have.
They have
it's not like they're playing Bama's schedule. Come on.
They have 3 road games that they play. 3. And you lost a game at home to a 1-3 MAC school. Like, that should be disqualifying until now. Here's what I'll say: if BYU loses a couple games, if Iowa State loses a game, if Indiana loses a couple games, sure, get back in there. I'm good with that. I think Notre Dame's a very good team, but how are they jumping ahead of the pack when they've already lost a game? It sets up and
it's a television product.
And I know it isn't the committee, and somebody's screaming at me right now, saying, "Well, the committee is going to be different." The issue is, the committee probably thinks Joel Klatt's a really reasonable football mind. I would say he has as much football knowledge as about anybody on the committee, yet he still has Alabama at 9. It's just what it is. These aren't robots. Maybe we should go back to the robots. But Chris,
I'm
now
absolutely in favor of having a computer aspect to this.
I'm
I'm
fine with it, too.
100% in favor of it.
But like I said
Like
earlier,
a computer shouldn't decide it, but I'm fine with like a third of whatever decisions are made coming off of some sort of formula.
yeah,
I'm fine with that.
the BCS thing got a little bit out of hand just because
It was too
felt like we were
confusing. Nobody
helpless.
understood
Yeah.
it.
However, there needs to be some sort of metric rather than, oh, well, they got more talent. Like, who says when they don't play each other?
Well, but the problem will be, it's kind of a be careful what you wish for the Big 12 too, because once the SEC and the Big 10 start to marginalize these conferences and quit playing them, then then you're going to be in a mid-major situation for college basketball. How do I get a quad 1 win? I can't play any, right? If we're all just quad 2 because of the league that we're in and we can't prove ourselves at any point, like how do we get that?
Yep.
So that would be my only fear of a metrics based.
Totally. Yep, that's 100% fair.
Yeah.
Now here's
because at least the humans, like you hope. I'm almost done with this book, The Price, the Armin Katayan book I've been telling you guys about, and like throughout that, and then did I tell you about the Business Wars podcast?
Yes.
And like they're citing all these leaders in college athletics of, the Big 10 and like power players, and they all have a conscience at the beginning. They're all seriously, to a man, like even like Jim Delaney's like at the beginning, like they're all like, yeah, it's just we don't want to be the ones to do this to college athletics, to college football. But then the money comes, and then they're like, screw it.
That lake house looks pretty good.
So, like, man, it's kind of like if you can have humans, maybe they'll stick up for the Big 12 and the ACC. The ACC is not going to get it as bad. We'll see. Man, I hope. Right, if the season ended right now, I think the Big 12 would be in really good shape.
I agree with that.
Especially, I was watching. First of all, I want to thank our friends at Mechdyne, the Mechdyne Corporation. I haven't even done our sponsor. This is how excited Blum and I were to podcast tonight.
I'm ready to get in the front door, C-Dub. Like, I don't care about I don't know.
Blum's going to kick in the front door.
Yeah.
We are in the Wild Rose Casino Studios. I was watching Colorado, Cincinnati late last night after dark. Really good. I was watching Kansas State. That's some really high-end football. Like, this league is better than even I thought it would be. The teams are better, I think. I don't think they're great. I don't know. In fact, I don't think any of them are like national championship worthy. But they're better than. They're very well rounded. Like if you see an idiot who is like, oh, they don't play defense, like it's complete ignorance. And that's the problem. Like I follow some of these people who vote in the AP poll. There was one philosopher that once said you can seem smarter, and I should have listened to this much earlier in my life. I've completely ruined it now. But sometimes not talking, you come off smarter than when you say things and you don't know what you're talking about. And so many of these voters will make this comment like it's the Big 12 in 2009. And it's just not that league anymore. Like there's really good football being played. That Cincinnati team's good. Like that, they even in a loss in Boulder, I was like, damn, like they are way better than I thought they would be. You look at Texas Tech this week, who now has dropped 2 in a row, still power rated the 5th best in this conference, Brent.
Yeah, it's an interesting game. Chris, that's almost exactly my feeling from watching a bunch yesterday too. Is Big 12 is.
I mean, are you comfortable going into the Kansas game?
Not at all.
No.
Daniels finally played well, and then Lance. That was unfortunate for Kansas. They had that game won twice and just couldn't pull it out. But Colorado's playing great right now.
They are.
Give kudos to Dion. I don't
absolutely
think, their skill. Shadur's a legit top 5 pick, right? We all agree on that.
Absolutely.
Travis Hunter's a legit top 3 pick.
Absolutely.
This Horn receiver is very good. They've got some depth now that they've developed. Like their skill guys are about as good as it gets.
Their D line is pretty good now.
And it's just
if they're they're better across, and they haven't had a ton of injuries either, which was kind of the key for them.
Yes, that was my takeaways, and I was impressed with Cincinnati as well. I was
They're
super
not
impressed.
bad.
No,
Yeah,
no,
I
that's not a layup at all in Ames.
no.
So let's talk about Texas Tech because of their situation, they're teetering right now. I would say.
Well, this just got interesting.
Yes.
So this is why you don't listen to people like me. 3 weeks ago, I guaranteed you they would come into Ames 5-0, and we were going to get Big Noon, and we wouldn't have gotten Big Noon, but I have heard that game day was probably going to make a return to Ames for that. Not happening. But they've dropped 2 in a row, and their quarterback goes out, and so they bring in this kid, and I'm like, okay, Hammond is his name. Very celebrated prep
Yeah.
in the state of Texas. He had offers from Tennessee, and this is in the NIL era. Keep in mind, Tennessee wanted him, Oklahoma State wanted him. So it's Gundy and Heupel, like 2 pretty good quarterback guys. He ends up at Texas Tech, who does very well with NIL, I believe. Correct? They're one of the higher end. So this is a guy who was he could have gone a lot of places, and he looked pretty good. He comes in, he's 10 of 15, 121 yards. Yep. Does throw a touchdown. They blow it spectacularly, blow this game. But Tech is soft on defense, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. It means they're
they're literally, here's the numbers on Texas Tech. You guys ready? They are dead last in college football in passing defense right now.
There you go.
Dead last. Not great, and second to last in total defense, or third to last in total defense. So not great there either. Oh, and by the way, they're the number one of the top 5 most penalized teams in college football. A couple of recipes that don't.
What is the number in this game? I would say this is an over. This is a blind play the over game.
I haven't even seen it. I saw the spread. But
all right, we'll do guess the point spreads coming up here. And just the spread opened at 11.5. It's already steamed up over 2 touchdowns last I saw.
It has it. I mean, here's the
concern. Because of the Hammond stuff. Because they're planning on a true freshman starting at quarterback.
So Hammond was really good for a quarter. It's almost it reminded me a little bit of when Purdy came in against Oklahoma State, and it's just kind of like a new juice. And he was running it, and he was throwing it, and then he took a couple hits, and he is not a big guy. I mean, he is a slight build guy, true freshman. Got rattled a little bit, and then he got absolutely plastered on a drive to put the game away. He fumbled the ball, and that lost him the game. And so the question would be, you go from kind of a fun and new and exciting, a little bit of a spark, to now you have a week to prepare. That should help him, but also a week for Iowa State to prepare. And Iowa State's so Texas Tech's last in the country in pass
56
defense.
56.5. Take the over.
Oof. Iowa State's last in pass Texas Tech's last in pass defense. Iowa State is second in the country in pass defense. This is a tough task for Hammond walking in, but their counter is they still have Taj Brooks, and if they keep it on the ground, they run the ball. I mean, that's where I would counter C-Dub on that over, is their ability to run the ball. I don't know if they want Hammond to throw it 40 times.
Well, they definitely shouldn't. I would make the argument that this is interesting. This sets up. I'm watching this kid. This is a John Haycock. Because this kid will. I promise you. When we haven't played a lot, the progressions are harder for you.
Yes,
and especially against the secondary like Iowa State's. This will be a quarterback running a lot game. This Hammond will, because he's not going to have a lot of guys open, and he's going to panic. He's going to, and that could be good, right? I mean, that can be good. It's really minus the panicking. That's what happened with Rocco Beck the other day, right? Like that was Iowa State's offense there for a good chunk of that football game.
Yep.
The difference is that Rocco's this experienced guy who can not tuck it and run. I think that will happen a lot in this game. If Iowa State can be respectable with its rush defense, again, this is the same formula.
This hasn't changed.
This kid will throw jump ball after jump ball against that, but you got to get to that point. You got to be able to stop the run. And you're right. They have a really good running back.
Yeah, Brooks, I think, is one of the good ones. And I would say the difference between Hammond here and even Brown from UCF and Green to an extent at West Virginia is this guy hasn't taken a lot of hits.
Mm-mm.
And I, you hit him a couple of times. He is not a big guy at all. And and it's just what Rocco does a really nice job of, and Anthony talked about in the podcast with you, which I thought was super, super underrated. Not the podcast, but this point. The podcast is really good.
Thank you.
Was they are purposely not taking hits. And I think that's the hardest part for a young quarterback is you try and make a play every single play, and you ended up costing your team by either getting hurt, making a mistake, fumbling, throwing an interception on the run, something of that nature. What Malzahn did really nice job of against Iowa State is he basically told Brown, do not throw the ball. Like, you will not throw it. Do not throw it. And it almost worked. I don't think Tech can have that same luxury. I think Iowa State's more equipped to stop this type of run game than it was a UCF run game because Hammond can run it, don't get me wrong, but he's nowhere near where the UCF quarterback was as far as just tucking and running it either.
They do have really big wide receivers, which would be a thing.
Yeah.
Because Iowa State has relatively short corners. I feel like Darian Porter gets a really good look in this game, giving a little more length at the cornerback spot for Iowa State.
I think Caleb Douglas is maybe he's right there with Nolan Higgins as one of the better receivers in the
totally.
Big 12.
What is he? 6'4",
He's a
6'5"? Oh,
big dude.
he's
Yeah,
a big dude.
So he's been awesome all year. There's a challenge there. I mean, Iowa State, quite frankly, has not played other than Baylor, has not played a team that can really throw the ball. That's why they're second in the country. And I think it's going to be interesting for McGuire and Texas Tech, who I would say a criticism of him is he just hasn't been able to finish the deal. I mean, they've been in a lot of games here and they just haven't won them. Does he do the numbers game and try and run it? Because Iowa State has not been good against the run. Like it's bad. It's now Iowa State's given up 5 yards per carry on the ground,
which is surprising how good they were at West Virginia. Really, when you look back,
and we if you look deeper into it, they gave up just chunk play after chunk play against UCF, and that is really gonna change your metrics a little bit. But I'll be curious how Texas Tech attacks here because they always want to throw it first. There's no question. It's is how much can they test that Iowa State secondary, who has been elite all year long.
It will be an interesting matchup. The quarterback thing is just another wrinkle. Again, the starter isn't necessarily out. I don't think he's been ruled out, but it sounds pretty damning.
Yeah, it sounds like a collarbone, which is going to
shoulder collarbone type thing. Yeah. We'll definitely have more information on that on Wednesday's show.
Long story short, I feel a lot better about Iowa State's chances with Hammond coming in than Morton because I think that kid's been through it. He's played road games and all that
experience.
Good stuff.
Yeah, and that's just why I could just see this now. This Hammond, because he's an athletic kid. Like I was really impressed for his first ever game. Like
throws a beautiful ball.
Yeah, he was awesome. He let him right down, and they scored, and he was running and putting it in the right spot. And then these young quarterbacks, again, they will run too much, and I could see that being a thing on Saturday in Ames.
Yep, I think it's man, just from a pure spot standpoint, you got to wonder where Tech's mentality is. I mean, they blew that game, and that's 2 in a row now that they have literally thrown away their season. I mean, they thought they were going to be 5-0, as you talked about. What is their mentality coming in here? I mean, Joey McGuire looked like he saw a ghost in the press conference, as he should have. I mean, they
had a lot of that in the league this week.
Oh man,
Lance was upset.
You got people that are mad. I can't imagine Gus is very happy right now. So
our guy down at Arizona, lock of the year, Arizona under.
Oh my god!
Hope everybody made some money on that.
They're really bad. But I think
Hey, shout out to our guy Neil Brown.
It's a nice win for Neil.
What does he have to do to save his job?
I think he's going to keep it. I do.
Really?
I do, because they owe him $9 million, C-Dub.
They're like flying like banners to fire him over the
I know,
stadium.
but
And
you
stuff.
gotta.
Like,
I had a really good conversation with somebody about this on Friday. You're gonna have to reevaluate your coaching
point.
buyout situation anymore.
yeah,
It's not
you can't
the
just
same.
fire a guy. You can't just choke up. Oh, okay, $20 million. We'll call this booster. No, we need that for the quarterback.
It's
Yeah.
like Lincoln Riley's buyout is $90 million. There's no chance. I mean, that's their own fault. Don't get me wrong, but it's
How much do you have to hate like Jimbo Fisher to pay him $76 million to not work like Texas A&M did?
and schools like that will still have it. West Virginia certainly does not.
No.
I don't, now $9 million be like, but it's not just the buyout. Then you got buy out the coordinators. You have to hire a new coach, and that's going to take something. Got to hire new staff.
And then you're probably going to have to get a lot of transfers because you're going to lose so many players.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now it's the university's fault, not guys like you. In the future, like, it's just crazy. Like it
is. But that's the thing. I think, at this time last year, I think there were 10 coaches that were already fired in power football. This year there have been 0. And I think there's a reason for that. And that's just you're not going to have the expendable income like you did the last 5 years.
We are Williams and Blum. We are on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network, presented as always by our friends at Mechdyne, the Mechdyne Corporation. They're always looking for great cyclones to hire. Go to mechdyne.com, MECHDYNE.com, and check out their job board. At some point, when you guys run Blum and I out of this business, we'll be applying at Mechdyne. Doubt I can get through their hiring process, though, if I'm being brutally honest with you. Want to give a shout out to our friend Colin Newell. You can hear him on his podcast with Jacqueline Cordova, Jake Rimsberg, and Jarrell Brock. They are Jirel Brock, not Jarrell Brock, Jirel Brock. They're doing a great job every week for us. You can also get all of your insurance needs through Colin Newell Insurance with Farm Bureau Financial Services. The best thing you can do is just Google Colin's name. He's saving Blum and I thousands of dollars. That's Colin 1L, Newell Insurance. Google that up on the Google machine and see if Colin can help you. Things are expensive right now. We got all the inflation and all that crap. You save some money on your insurance. That'll buy a couple rounds of groceries for the family. Also want to thank our friends at the Ivy College of Business at Iowa State. They should probably have Colin Newell come and speak. That would be a great.
He's a proud Ivy grad, yeah.
He is a proud Ivy grad. The Ivy College of Business at Iowa State. You can get that graduate degree. You can do it. You can do a lot of stuff online. You can do the night classes. There's all sorts of great options for you. There's a reason why Blum, our friends at the Ivy College of Business, are always one of the top-rated graduate programs in the country.
Do you know a way to combat inflation, C-Dub?
To invest in yourself?
Make
I don't
more
know.
money.
Where are you going with?
Make more money. How do you make more money?
Go and get that graduate degree from the Ivy College of Business.
That's right.
Gotta love it. We are moving on here. Let's talk. I did pull up our latest odds for the college football playoff. These are all via DraftKings, okay? Minus 135 for Iowa State to make the college football playoff. So you're now laying juice.
Holy, are you serious?
Yeah, swear to God. If you wanted to bet it right now, it's 5:30 on Sunday night. If you wanted to bet it,
so
minus 135
essentially has better odds to make the playoff than not.
Right now,
now.
Yep. I do have some insight on why these numbers are the way they are. To win the Big 12, minus 135 to get into the playoffs, plus 165 to win the Big 12 championship game.
That
hasn't
budged since last week.
Correct. Now, in that theory, Iowa State could lose a game in the regular season. This is to win the Big 12 championship game. Iowa State at plus 165. The rest of the Big 12 odds look like this. BYU at plus 230. Kansas State at plus 270.
Interesting. So BYU has now moved ahead of K-State.
I think that they had BYU losing to Central Florida, honestly.
Yeah, 100% did.
I think the odds makers played that, and now they – what's interesting here is power rating-wise, Kansas State is still closer to Iowa State than BYU is. Although I would like to see an update after. I haven't seen an update after yesterday's game for BYU.
They are still, for whatever reason, not high on the power ratings,
The
and
power ratings don't like him.
I
Yeah.
don't get it quite yet because they're just solid. I don't understand why they don't get as much love as they are right now.
Colorado at plus 800. And then you have Texas Tech and TCU both at plus 4,500. So I think we can safely say one of four teams, or it'll be two of four, who will represent the Big 12 in its championship game. It'll be Iowa State, BYU, Kansas State, or Colorado.
Yep, it's there, and I think the interesting part here is you got to start looking at tiebreakers. The tiebreakers and somebody.
I'm going to let that be your thing, okay, brother?
Well, somebody sent me a text, and it was a really good point. It was because all these leagues have so many more teams, the tiebreakers are going to become more of a factor.
Oh,
because all these teams are going to have one loss. I have a hard time, C-Dub, thinking if you lose twice in the Big 12, you are out. You're out. Like, I'm making that call right now. K-State loses again. Iowa State or BYU lose twice. They're all going to be out because somebody's going to win and get in there at one loss. I firmly believe that. Same with some of these other larger leagues, too. And so it just makes it a little bit difficult on the tiebreaker. Tiebreaker-wise, it's pretty simple early. Then it gets super complicated. First is head-to-head. And why is BYU ahead of K-State right now in those odds? BYU beat K-State. So if those two teams are tied with one loss entering the championship game, who gets in? BYU does.
Mm-hmm.
And
BYU doesn't have a loss.
Right. Exactly. So what does that mean for Iowa State? Okay, let's talk about Iowa State here. There is a world on the playoff versus championship thing. If Iowa State's only loss this year is to K-State in the last game of the year, K-State wins out, including that game. It's BYU wins out, including that game. It's BYU K-State in the Big 12 championship game. Iowa State's out. Now,
but that could be better off for you, potentially.
Potentially. I mean, that's an 11-1 Iowa State, 11-1 Iowa State team at that point. And I think you would probably be right on that bubble 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 to make the playoff. Either way.
Worst case, you'll be on that bubble.
You are on the bubble. There's no question you'll be on the bubble. Now, that's where it's going to get super, super uncomfortable of you're at the discretion then of committee members there.
And we really don't know how they're going to do this because we've never seen it before.
And you're also at the mercy then, C-Dub, of that result of that championship game. Because, why do I say that? Well, let's say BYU, it'd be interesting because let's say BYU beats K-State. Again, we're all hypotheticals here. K-State now has 2 losses. Let's say K-State beats BYU. That would be bad news bears for Iowa State.
Yeah, because then it's like, well, BYU has beaten them, but you guys didn't beat them. You both played them at home. We'll put BYU in.
Correct. And so that's where the three team world I think is nearly impossible. I think 2 is still very possible for the Big 12. But it's all going to depend on who's playing who, what are the matchups. And so let me put it this way, C-Dub. Let's say Iowa State loses to Utah. Again, I don't think they will at this point, but beats K-State. Iowa State is definitely then going to be in the Big 12 championship game. And you win it, then you get a bye. There's a lot of moving pieces as to how Iowa State could make the playoff, and it doesn't just have to be from winning the championship. I also believe if Iowa State goes undefeated until the Big 12 championship game, let's say loses to BYU, I think Iowa State would get in then. I do. And so these are the paths you kind of have to go down. If you lose one game in the non-conference or in the conference and it's not to K-State, you better win the whole thing. You better win the whole thing through the Big 12.
Which is, more ammo for why we were so focused on the Kansas game last night.
Yeah, because
we were rock chalking.
Correct. If K-State would have lost that game, they're pretty much eliminated, and there's a world where either they may not have the ammo to go into Ames and feel good about it, or they are removed from that championship conversation. Now you only have to worry about Colorado then losing a game. Otherwise, it could have just been a walk to the championship game for both BYU and Iowa State. Now, K-State has just as good a chance as anybody because all they have to do is beat Iowa State now. So they now control their own destiny as well.
Well, we'll keep working on these tiebreakers and stuff for you as it evolves, because I've had a lot of people ask me, and really my response up until this point has been, I'm going to deal with that when we know more.
Yeah, it's there now. I mean,
But-
you're right. It's a four team.
It'd be
4 for 2.
shocking for one of those teams to not come out
yeah,
the Big 12 title.
And Colorado has got a decently favorable schedule for them. So they're in it too. They're in it too. I just
Well, that'd be fun. Iowa State, Colorado,
Iowa State versus Prime
and
in
Dallas.
Dallas.
Oh my God, it'd be amazing.
That would get a huge number too, by the way.
It would get a huge number.
It's possible. I think BYU though, because BYU already beat K-State, they would, they would have the leg up on. And Colorado doesn't play BYU, which is kind of frustrating in some regard because nobody can get eliminated
It's
that
just
way.
dumb too. Those two schools should play
They should,
every
yeah, they
year,
should.
like it. The geographics, but who cares about geography? It's college football in 2024.
Yeah, but so
Well,
here's the good thing. Just optimist hat. The Big 12 started with what? 16 teams? 16 teams?
yes. Yep.
We're down to 4. And you can be one of those 4. So, we've eliminated now 75% of the league from making the championship game. And you're right there.
You're right there, baby. You're right there. We are presented, as always, by our friends at Mechdyne. Shout out to Kelderman Manufacturing, presenting sponsor of Williams & Blum here on Cyclone Fanatic. They are also the sponsor of Kicking It with Jeff Woody and Grant Mahoney. I almost called him Jeff Mahoney and Grant Woody. That would have been a catastrophic mistake. I love that show. Those guys are doing great.
Hey,
Kelderman supporting that show each and every week is awesome.
I gotta say something. I love Iowa State fans. A nice woman reached out to me after their show last week because Mahoney said he didn't have tickets, and so this woman sent me a message. She's like, "I don't have Grant's email. Can you pass it along? I'm gonna give him my 2 tickets extras that I have." And so
That's very nice.
Way to go, Cyclone Fanatics.
Very, very kind.
Yes, very kind.
Very kind. Kelderman Manufacturing, Kelderman.com. Check out for all of their. I like to. They do a lot of good custom suspension work on, big diesel trucks. We've talked about motorhomes, all that good stuff. Check them out. Kelderman.com. Great company, locally owned company who employs a bunch of people down in the great city of Oskaloosa, home of the Southern Iowa Speedway, baby. I want to also give a shout out to our friends at West O Brewing. I had me some Ames lagers. The Ames lager went down smooth during the trick or treat.
Yes, it did.
In Bondurant. And I knew as I was drinking this beer, I was helping pay the Iowa State football team that is ranked 11th nationally.
Yeah, should be top 10, but we'll take it. No, thank you for everyone's support. We're having a good year as far as the Ames Lager. Let's keep it up. I want to see all the Lagers.
Where is it at compared to last year? Is it falling off?
It's interesting because I actually got those numbers last week. It's about the same as last
We
year.
need to sell more of it.
We need to sell more. I mean, I'll be honest, guys. We need to sell more. It's almost the exact same as last year at this time. Now, last year you had the newness and the novelty
it was
item.
sexy. Yeah.
But now it's everywhere, and you can find it whenever you want. It's on tap at a lot of places. So please,
dude,
purchase it.
that red smoked ale.
Yeah, well, I had some of their Oktoberfest last
If
night too.
Matt, if you're listening, the smoked red that might be my favorite beer.
I bet we could find you some.
It is so good.
Yes,
Like unbelievable how much I like that smoked red.
Keep buying the Ames Lager. It's going to help. Portal opens December 9th.
Portal opens. We've kind of already done our Whipples Hybrids Big 12 segment, but we can touch on just a few other things here. Plant your independence, plant Whipples. Blum, anything else stand out to you Big 12 wise? And then we can do a really quick hit on men's and women's basketball before we get into guess the point spreads.
Yeah, I mean, we've touched on a lot of this. Utah and Oklahoma State, it's backward season. Those guys are going the wrong way.
Can we talk about Willie Fritz real quick?
Yeah, that's a big-time win.
Great win for them.
Big-time win. Good for Willie.
And they're doing what we thought. We thought that team would keep getting better, and I'm really glad with their rushing attack, I'm glad Iowa State doesn't have to see that in the second half of the season. right? Like, because they play defense. So they win that one. Got a big interception in the last 2 minutes to let their kicker, who, well, I mean, there's no way that kid was making that kick in my mind, and he stuffed up and drilled it. It was like a knuckleball, just looked horrible. So good win for them. And yeah, like, what do you do if you're Utah right now? And this is where it's hard in the NIL era. I think that NIL is great when you're good.
When you're good, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Or
Hassel and
it's
I were
not-
talking about this last week with Iowa. It's like, Jesus, like trying to get people to pay now after, like, it's hard.
Yeah, and even us, we could still use some more. By the way, I'm an NIL guy here, but
you know what I mean, though.
Yes.
Like, people are excited when they watch the team and they're.
You got it. Oh, if Iowa State was,
Well, think if they didn't turn it around last year.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Think if they go 4-8 last year, 2 years in a row, how much harder it would be to get people to spend.
Well, you're right, and then you now factor in that universities are still. Back in the day, you didn't have to worry about that expense. It was always about selling the hype and selling the hope. Now, the problem is to sell hope, you have to maybe let go of your coach. But, C-Dub, if you let go of your coach, what does that allow everybody to do?
Transfer.
Leave.
I will make another shameless plug for the media. Our place in all this is these programs and athletic departments. I'm not really talking about Iowa State, but I'm talking about across the board. They better learn to use the media better, because the only way you can get that hope sold is if the media knows about what you're doing to make things better. And if everything is so goddamn secretive all the time, the fans don't know about it. Like, I mean, I have people hitting me up for Iowa State's basketball scrimmage with Northwestern. I don't know, because the two programs made a deal that they weren't going to leave. Meanwhile, Creighton's playing a game on TV, and I'm not criticizing anyone. It's just fans want the information. And if they're funding the whole thing, they deserve it. And you're not going to put it out on cyclones.com, right? Again, I have a great relationship with all these people. You all know my relationship with Otzelberger. This isn't a criticism. I'm saying, like, when you're in the top 10, you can do whatever you want. If you're Willie Fritz in Houston right now, like, you're best to be leaking everything. Hey, we're talking to this transfer. We're talking to, right? Like, doesn't that help a guy like you to raise money?
Yes, that's a great point. You're gonna have to shift your MO around from secretive's better to you got to find creative ways to keep everybody engaged.
Yeah, keep them engaged,
or else otherwise, I will just go do something else. And I think that's why the NFL's done such a good job. It is a year-round sport, and college athletics has an opportunity here.
Yes.
It really does, with the portal, with NIL, to become more year-round. But you got to have these athletic departments to embrace that part too, and give some people some stuff along the way.
Yeah, because you're right about the hype thing. And if we're not going to be firing coaches all the time now because of buyouts, and like, that's an era that's gone.
Well,
right?
It's completely gone. Now somebody's going to try it, and I'm telling you, at Iowa State,
there might be 10 programs in the country going forward that can just fire a coach with a $20 million buyout, right?
Agreed.
You're looking at Ohio State. You're looking at Alabama, Georgia, even like Alabama. Can they do that?
Oof.
In 10 years, like maybe 10 years ago.
Maybe 10 years. But you hit on something really good that mark this down, because the cycle has completely changed in college athletics. It used to be hire a guy, hype 3 to 4 years. It either works and you're good, or you fire him, you start over, and you sell that hype thing again.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that
anymore. We've been through this a lot.
You can't. The money's not there anymore. The money is not there. So you're either going to have to pay less on that second come up, which is going to be hard to find a coach that way, or you're going to have to stick with your guy.
Here's a hypothetical. In this era, if it happens right now, does Paul Rhodes get fired?
No.
Does Steve Prohm, after going 0-19 in the Big 12 with his buyout?
That'd be dicey. It's a great question. To change the way you think a little bit, because it's just not an open checkbook anymore. You have to be really, really smart about this stuff. And
that's another thing. It's in this book. I'm telling everybody should read it. If you like this podcast and the stuff we talk about, like the part of the problem that college athletics created for itself was that the money didn't feel real. I think Armin Katayan called it monopoly money because everybody knew how much money the athletic departments were making and the fact that like they didn't pay any of their workers. So it was like, while this money is real and it like I think any rational person could say that these scholarships and room and board and that is value. Like there's monetary value to that
Oh,
for these players.
no
Like it's
doubt.
not like they've
Yeah.
been,
Yeah.
just barely getting by. They've had good lives, all that stuff. But the fans, your boosters, didn't. Like when you have to have surgery or somebody, and it's like, oh, okay, well, insurance covers this, so what do I have to pay? It's like the money that you didn't have to pay doesn't even exist. Like it doesn't, and that's what college sports fans have just thought of it as forever. That this money, while yeah, it's there, but like they don't need a barber shop in the football office. Like, well, just cut that out, right? Like these people they couldn't comprehend any of this.
Yep. Now, and the other interesting part, the other side of this coin is there's never been a better time if you're a successful head coach right now
Yeah.
to renegotiate to stay or to have leverage to stay. But at the same time, it's really hard for athletic departments to give raises.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do if you're a coach now? You say, hey, double my money. All right, here's an extra $3 million, coach. However, that's
Lower
$3
your
million.
buyout.
That's $3 million that your players aren't going to get. So it's really, really difficult, and those athletic departments that are on the same page and have less drama are going to be an advantage, because then you're not going to have people like Jerome Tang, although he might still try and do it, trying to leverage his own athletic department to the benefit of him.
I love this. I love this. We probably should get back to the
Yes,
topics, but like this is
switch.
just, and I love it too because like I'm on everybody's side. Here's what's funny: it's like I'm not taking a side because like I think that while I think that the NCAA and like these people have been completely unchecked for far too long running college sports, and like this is great. This is a reckoning that they have deserved this since
We're reckoning.
1995.
We're
Okay,
definitely reckoning right now.
so do the coaches. They deserve everything they're about to get. They deserve it all. And, Jimmy Sextons of the world. And you guys have just bent these schools over a barrel for 20 years with your ridiculous buyouts and your one-sided contracts and just your egos. You guys deserve everything that's coming your way.
Watch, the carousel will be a lot less this offseason. There'll be some. There'll be some, but
some guys, you're just worth it, right? Like certain guys, like I get it. Like, and it's funny, people get irate about salaries. It's like, yeah, Nick Saban was making $11 million. He was worth it. Absolutely was worth it to the university, but he was worth more than that. You look at enrollment and like, it's a big business. These universities are. They're absolute. Like, I make the argument that Matt Campbell's worth considerably more than he makes now. If I'm Jamie Pollard, I go, well, I have a budget, right? I understand that. Then make the university chip in to pay Matt Campbell more, because the last time I looked around, I ain't seeing any of these people lining up to go, 60,000 or 200,000 people walking around lots to watch a chemistry test.
Yep.
I haven't seen that. Sorry, I'm getting on my soapbox.
I get
now.
It. Yeah, we'll get to pick the point spreads here. I think, it'd be interesting if you asked the coaches that went Power 5 to Power 5 if they would do it again this offseason. Like think of a Jed Fish.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's good luck.
That university's broke too.
They're gonna have a hard time on the Big
so is
Ten
Arizona
going
for that
forward.
part. But at least Arizona's punching at its own weight class.
Yeah, I mean, but then you have some like Mike Elko. Huge win for him. He's been great. So it's not perfect, but I do think as a coach, you have to be mindful of, yes, I can get a paycheck, but if I go to a new school and the entire roster leaves because they don't know me, it's going to be really hard. You are better off, if you like it where you are, to stay for the foreseeable future. I'm talking more football. Basketball, you can turn it. I think you can turn those wheels a little bit quicker. But football-wise, man, making a coaching change in this era, you could set your program back literally 5 years. And you cannot, because these guys have options to leave, and they're going to take the money with them.
I will say this too to wrap this up, as you made a good point. All the problems I'm yelling about, I don't really think Iowa State has them.
No.
So that's the good thing, right? Like, it would have been really easy after the last 2 years to go and give Otzelberger a lifetime contract, which those generally don't end well. I would have been all for it. Right. Or, I feel like the Campbell one, if anything, is very pro Iowa State. I feel like
Yes.
Matt, if he ever wanted to press it, probably could have without knowing the inner workings of him and Pollard, because I don't. But he, it's clearly a guy who is the best coach in the program's history doing right. Like, but it feels like, and I know like where you fit in with all this, you're not making these decisions, but it feels like everybody's kind of on the same page, which is really the best thing possible.
Yeah, but I just think Matt's a good example of, thank goodness for him. If you had a guy that was all about the money,
well, he would have been gone 6 years ago.
Correct.
Yeah.
But even now, if he was all about the money, well, then that's directly going to take away from your players next year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's interesting. And again, I don't want to overspeak her because I don't know what those conversations are like. Of yes, Matt would be in a prime spot for a raise, a huge raise. It's harder to do that.
Well, so did TJ?
I don't know. That's another good question. That you got it, and I don't. That's where
like
everybody has to understand that the era has changed. You just it's not like it was 5 years ago.
Because it used to be like, and this is where the coaching side, the agents piss me off so much, because like the coach has a contract. And there's always incentives in these contracts. So if you go to a Sweet 16, if you go to a bowl game, like whatever, and you get a bonus, that's supposed to be your raise. But it would be like, well, I went 8-4. Now you have to give me an extra 5 years. But like, no, you're just doing your job like that. You already got your raise because there was an incentive in your contract. Well, right? Like for how many years it would be like Rhodes did this. Rhodes had that one really good year and he was like, oh, I'm going to Wisconsin. And then all of a sudden, Iowa State, which was fine. He deserved it. Like that's how the job world works. That's how real world works. If Alabama's collective came to you and offered you $1 million and you told Iowa State, they would have all the right in the world to up your salary, or not Iowa State. You all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
This is just how the economy works. But the problem is we got it where these coaches just had so much power because of their buyouts and stuff, where they had a gun to your head. And there's nothing you could do.
And somebody along the way convinced the administrators that, hey, it's not just good to have this huge number. I have to have 5 years locked in at that huge number.
Yeah. Like, it's brilliant by these agents.
Remember that whole thing? Oh, recruiting's going to suffer if I don't have 5 years.
Yeah.
Now, C-Dub, I would like recruiting-wise, yes, you want stability. Don't get me wrong, but it changes so much. Like
that doesn't even matter anymore. The 5 year thing, does it?
A 6 year, like a 6-7 year contract. There's just no need anymore.
I've seen it too, just with the interest in recruiting. Having done this for 20 years now, people just care so much less about freshmen because they don't really think they're going to be there in 3 years.
And it's a coin flip.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, like half the people are like, who's this Cale Brazina guy? Well, we've been talking about him all summer. Like, he's pretty good.
Yeah. No,
it's all fascinating.
Good chat. Well, I did not envision we'd be getting into that, but no, it's this next month on the carousel, I am just fascinated by.
Bye week. I can't wait that, because I'm sure I ruffled feathers on all sides of the block there. But I feel like I'm being fair. Like, if you're just looking at the industry, like, how's anything we said untrue?
No, it's fair. Completely.
These agents, man, they are sharks. The Jimmy Sexton has like 12 of the 16. He has these schools bidding against each other for his own coaches. It's crazy.
And he'll still have some power, but it should not be as much as it was. And
no.
I think that's going to be interesting to see what athletic departments do, and if coaches are wise enough to see that, hey, the grass isn't greener.
That, and like maybe a guy like James Franklin, who's Gundy, notorious for whoever their agents are, getting their names out there, and then they never leave. I have a pretty good job, right? Pretty happy.
Yeah.
Family's happy here.
That-
I don't necessarily need to be just ruffling feathers every off season. Pretty good.
This, in a weird way, could provide more stability in the coaching ranks going forward.
There we go. We're always finding the silver linings. We are presented by Mechdyne and the Wild Rose Casino Studios. We are about to guess the point spreads for week, 10 of the college football season, 9, whatever. TryWebwise.com is where I'd like you to go if you're in need of a WordPress website. Just a standard, solid, beautiful-looking website for your business. TheWebwiseSolution.com, TryWebwise.com. You can go to either one of them. I use them for I use them for all of when I need to do one for one of my companies that I represent. North Iowa based, and they charge North Iowa prices. I like that. Up there in Mason City. Good guys. Huge Cyclone fans. All right, Brent Blum, it is time to guess the point spreads. It is week 10. I was correct. So Iowa State, Texas Tech opens at 10.5. It is now 14. 14.5 is out there as well.
Woo. Steep.
That is based on quarterback. Hey, I nailed it. I did my projections on point spreads a couple weeks ago on Iowa Everywhere. I had that at 12. So I'm pretty close on most of these. I think Iowa State will be a comfortable favorite now when they go to Utah. The Cyclones, I can confidently say, unless something crazy happens, like a big injury or two, they should be favored in every game the rest of the year. Do you agree?
Yeah, and I do, and I would put it, well, we're going to remove the K-State game. That's going to be close to a field goal one way or another. I don't think there's any question there. I think everything else, C-Dub, is 6 points.
Their power rating is identical.
Yeah, they're
right
the
now.
same team. I think that's 6 points or more going forward every other game, right?
Yeah, Utah was up over a touchdown going into last week.
It's got to be now. I mean, they can't. It's all setting up. Things are going okay, everybody. Front door.
Not
We're front door.
too
We're going to front door this thing.
Man, we got games all week long. We got New Mexico State, Florida International on Tuesday. Jeez, this is disgusting. They've overdone it. I used to like the Tuesday, Wednesday games like only in November, but they start too early now. I just can't get excited about it anymore.
I got to find time to watch my NBA.
Ohio State at Penn State. Do you have an opinion on this big one?
This should be an elimination game, but it won't be.
No,
That's
God,
my
no.
opinion. I'm going to say pick 'em.
Ohio State by 4.
Oh, because Aller got hurt.
Did he?
State quarterback, yeah.
I didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome to the SEC, Oklahoma. Maine is in Norman this weekend.
They're
Jesus.
not
It's
going to make a bowl.
vintage. Welcome to the SEC. Do you have an opinion? Never mind. That game's not relevant. Kansas State at Houston. 2:30 kick.
Come on, Willie.
Come on, Willie.
Come on, Willie Fritz.
Willie.
11.
13. That's a win. We'll give it to you.
Come on now, Willie.
Florida, Georgia is irrelevant. Just looking for any games. Indiana at Michigan State. We're keeping an eye on the Hoosiers. Scoreboard watching.
If I'm the Hoosiers, I said it earlier. I am mad at the rankings. Like, you need to be like that's. This is.
I am calling up Jim Delaney in his cushy Rose Bowl office.
What? Why are those guys ahead of us right now? Is this in East Lansing?
This is in East Lansing.
8.
7. That's a win. Well done. Arizona is at UCF.
Oh boy. Park up the car and
God, this is a
go
talk
home.
about different styles.
Oh man. UCF 4.
Disgusting. 5.5. That's a win. Arizona State is at Oklahoma State.
Oh. Man, one team's gonna want to be there.
God, I mean, honestly though, what were the chances at the beginning of the year that Oklahoma State has still not won a Big 12 game going into November like this?
Nuts. Completely
And they
nuts.
beat Arkansas,
Right.
which is
Completely
what's
nuts.
weird. That shows you motivation, though, because they still have plenty of motivation in that game when they played Arkansas. And now they're just like, yeah.
Yeah, that sad effort for them last week. I'm going to still say they're favored by 5, though.
Way off. They are a 1-point underdog to Arizona State.
Oh, don't fall for it. I'm circling that one.
That's the Blum lock.
Mm-hmm. I'll let me look into it a little bit, but that's for now on the Sunday.
Gamecocks, they got Texas A&M coming into Columbia.
Jeez.
My Gamecocks.
A&M by 4.
On the dot. TCU at Baylor.
Baylor, Aranda, off the mat.
He is risen.
He has come back for
it's
life.
That Undertaker gif where he just rises up.
Just Aranda with his offense from nowhere. Where's this game at?
Waco.
I'm going to say Baylor at -2.5.
On the dot. Not bad. I think that's it for Big 12 games. And then, of course, the Iowa State game.
Colorado goodbye.
Yeah, Colorado's off. Not a lot of sexy games nationwide either. Iowa State wasn't going to get big noon because of Ohio State, Penn State. That is big noon. But we had both heard that there was a strong chance that they would have had game day if Texas Tech wouldn't have crapped the bed.
Have they announced it yet?
It's
Penn State. They're
going there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. It's a pretty weak slate.
Light work. Good tailgating.
We like looking at your real quick. We like looking at your RV Village special game of the week.
What do we got?
We've got San Diego State at Boise. San Diego State sucks this year. Duke at Miami. Ugh.
Hey, I got some bad news.
What? I don't need any more bad news. Huh?
Forecast on Saturday in Ames is not great.
What is it calling for?
We got 55 and rain all day.
We've had really good weather.
We've been really lucky. So
what does Friday look like?
Friday looks chilly but calm. No rain. But Saturday looks like all sorts of rain. All the rain on Saturday.
How guaranteed 90%? What are we talking?
We're talking 85%. Okay.
It's still early.
It's still early. We'll keep an eye on it, everybody.
It's still early.
All
right.
A rainy day doesn't really favor one team or the other, I don't think.
Probably not in that game.
Probably not in that game. Yeah.
I did have a source tell me he would expect Texas Tech to try and throw it a lot, but who knows?
Wind won't be a factor as of today. Just
that
damn.
Grass. I will say that grass always in these conditions should favor the home team because of the cleat changes and all that stuff.
Good point.
The little slippery grass that last game, that Central Florida game, a little bit. So turfs look really good this year, though. They've done a
turf team.
Yeah. All right, he is Brent Blum. My name is Chris Williams. Please go and give us a positive review, positive rating, if you don't mind. Subscribe to us on YouTube if you haven't yet, Cyclone Fanatic TV. Believe it or not, that is becoming the most popular place to consume our podcast.
One last thing for me.
Look at our ugly mugs.
We're about 5,000 short of reaching our $70,000 goal. Can we get there, everybody?
Oh, let's get there.
By the end of the month? End of the month.
We can do it.
Okay, thank you.
We can do it. He's Brent Blum. I'm Chris Williams. I would encourage you all to have a fantastic rest of your week. We will be back on Wednesday morning. All of our other great Cyclone Fanatic programming. For Brent, I'm Chris. Later.